webinar. We are going to send a link to the recorded webinar and send the slides to you so that if you would like to use this in professional development later or refer to it later, that's what this is for. So Carrie, thanks for handling the chat. I'm also joined by my colleague, Naya Thomas, and I'll let Naya introduce herself.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Naya Thomas. I am the Community Impact Manager here at Healthy Birthday. I'm so excited to be joining you all today. I come from a background as a birth doula and prenatal massage therapist, passionate about community work and birth work and reproductive health, and so excited to share the power of fetal movement monitoring, not only within community care work, but amongst providers, and it sounds like early Head Start uh, healthcare workers, community workers, doulas as well. So shout out to Laura, who's also a doula as well.
Awesome. So as we get going today, we want to acknowledge that we are funding partner, and our partner in this campaign has been the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, and we're very grateful to their support. I had an opportunity to attend the summit 2 years ago, the Michigan Prenatal Summit 2 years ago, which was a fantastic event. And we love watching the big things that are happening in Michigan in regards to maternal health and infant health. So before I turn it back over to Naya, I wanted to share with you that, again, we said we're recording the presentation. We're going to share this out, but we will be talking about stillbirth today and the loss of life. And so we just want you to prioritize yourself. If you feel like, we get into some topics and this is not the day that you want to engage in that content, it is absolutely okay to prioritize yourself and step away. We will completely understand that, and we appreciate you taking care of yourself. So we just kind of wanted to level set that this morning for you. So now I believe it's Naya's turn.
It is, yeah. Thank you, Sarah. So yeah, as Sarah was saying, as we continue this conversation around stillbirth, potentially how it's impacted maybe the clients that you're working with and possibly family members, community members, I want us to take a step back and look at the larger picture of pregnancy in the United States. So as you're looking on your screen here, you'll see some numbers that reflect the impact of stillbirth within the United States as a whole. So you're looking at numbers of the 2022 data from CDC. And I want to really emphasize that these numbers are telling a deeper story than what the data reflects. So we know that barriers to healthcare access are very real. And so are the rich birth practices and traditions that stand in the gap, like community doulas, granny midwives, and other traditions that we may not be familiar with. And so when we look at these numbers, like the 185 US pregnancies that may be impacted by stillbirth, these are numbers that are giving us direction on where more support, more connection, and more tools are needed to continue to help us close these gaps. So these numbers are not inevitable. These numbers are just giving us direction on where we need to go to help close these gaps. And so we're proud to be a part of the change alongside providers, birth workers, caregivers, and other support professionals and educators to help create that change and help close that gap. So as we continue this conversation, I want us to take an even closer look at how these difference in birth outcomes impact different communities. So the last slide, we looked at the very real and urgent ways different communities are impacted. I also want to talk about, excuse me, the importance of the fact that even those who are considered low risk in their pregnancies, um, excuse me, it's also important to understand that those who, it's also important to understand that uh, anyone can be impacted by stillbirth. So even those considered low risk in their pregnancies or who may have access to care can still be impacted by stillbirth. So it's important that we're sharing fetal movement monitoring and information around stillbirth prevention with everyone. Those in rural areas, regardless of income, access gaps may make things even harder. Over 25% of US counties don't have birth facilities or OB providers. Um, there's more than 2.3 million people of reproductive age navigating pregnancy without nearby support. And so we also know risk increases with age. So for birth people in their 40s, the risk is significantly higher, about 10 stillbirths per 1,000 pregnancies. And as I just said, all this really shows us that stillbirth prevention um, isn't just for one group, it's essential for everyone. But what it gives us is ways to share information around stillbirth prevention in very specific and tailored ways. And as we continue to share information about Count the Kicks and fetal movement monitoring, will help you guide that information to make it very tailored for the communities that you're working with. But it does need to be shared in very specific and rooted ways that are community centered. So let's talk about Michigan specifically, because we are here to talk about your state. We do have some numbers here from CDC Wonder database, and this is from 2017 to 2021. So our goal as Healthy Birthday and Count the Kicks is to make kick counting a common practice for every parent, every expectant parent and family in their third trimester. So we know that families in Michigan have been, well, across the country have heavily been impacted by stillbirth. And we know that 602 babies every year on average are lost to stillbirth. And we're committed to decreasing that number by making sure that providers, expectant families alike learn about the evidence-based practice of kick counting and stillbirth prevention. And so we really want to dig into that information and share that information with you today so that you can share this information with those that you work with. So I'll pass it back to Sarah so she can tell you more about what that looks like.
Thank you. So let's talk about what the Count the Kicks campaign is. Perhaps you've heard of it. If not, we will let you know that this is a highly effective evidence-based stillbirth prevention program. It's known as an early warning system for moms, and these numbers here are climbing. So we've saved lives in 38 states and 8 countries. I need to go back in and update our slide, but we had a fantastic fourth quarter as far as storytelling was concerned, as we heard from families that were sharing their experience. So this program is very easy to implement, and you're going to learn a lot about the tools that we have with this campaign. But I want to go back just a minute and talk about, so we said in the beginning, we were here to talk about stillbirth, and we are here to talk about stillbirth as one of the primary tools or primary things that happens in a pregnancy that we believe we can have an impact on when people are paying attention to that fetal movement monitoring. So what is it? Well, stillbirth is when a baby is born still or born not breathing, not heartbeat. They are born dead. And what we know about stillbirth is that it can be caused by a variety of reasons. And we may not ever know the reason why a child was born still. You can see on the screen here, there are some indicators that research shows that there's some correlation with that. There's some causation. Oftentimes what we see are the top three are congenital birth defects, a problem with the placenta or cord, or a problem with pregnancy and labor conditions. And oftentimes there are underlying comorbidities that happen that go alongside syphilis. But the truth is we really don't know when somebody is going to experience a stillbirth. But what we do know from research is that when someone's paying attention to that movement, that this is an early warning sign that something may be wrong with baby and or mom. And if we can get mom seen and we can reassure that everything is fine or a delivery is needed, that's what we're here to talk about with our tools. So as I said, fetal movement stopping or slowing, that's what we're looking for. But I also want to lift up that's the CDC here, her campaign's language. We want to lift up for you that any change in movement is something that should be explored with a provider and given attention to. We have an ambassador. Her story is very poignant, and there's a link to a severe maternal morbidity. that occurred as a result of the delivery. But with her experience, it wasn't a slowing or stopping of movement with her son, Zach, who was born still. It was actually frenetic movement. The movement increased very rapidly in a short amount of time, and it was abnormal for his daily pattern. And as I said, Zach was born still, and Sean nearly lost her life. So we want to lift up for you that any change in movement is something that needs urgent attention. So, what are we based upon? We are based upon something called the Norway Study. And let me back up and tell you just a little bit about us organizationally. We were founded by 5 mothers that resided in Des Moines, Iowa, and who were introduced through their social networks as women who had all suffered a stillbirth. And what they came to the table as they grew more familiar with one another's stories, they were hearing this, they didn't want anybody, in their words, to be a part of their club. And so they set out to figure out, was there something that could have been done? Was there a warning sign that they did not heed or know about to pay attention? And they came across this study, the Norway study. Dr. Ruth Frutz is one of the original researchers, and she sits on our medical advisory board and still continues to advise our work. But essentially, what the study comes down to is in Norway, they took this cohort of birthing individuals and they taught them to pay attention to daily fetal movements in the 3rd trimester. They taught them to record those movements, and they were paying attention at the same time every day. So they had this normal pattern. If they noticed that there was a change in that pattern, they were instructed to seek medical attention right away. What they saw as a result of this study and implementation was a 30% reduction of stillbirth across this cohort. And so that is what our 5 founders set out to implement in Iowa. We started our campaign in 2008, and by 2013, we saw a dramatic decrease in the stillbirths that were occurring in Iowa. That is what we hope for all of the states that we currently go in. To learn more about that evidence, and again, we will provide these links to you in the PDF at the end when we send our follow-up email. But just know that we have had research published in BJOG and AJOG, which are those guiding journals for the obstetric and gynecology practices. We also have significant partner relationships and evidence that we've set up with other organizations, and we have a lot of evidence places that we can share for you. So if that's something you're interested in, you can look at our website under evidence, or you feel free to email me. I'm happy to send you some links. And I know Carrie can put my email in the chat for you. I also want to outline today. So we wanted to kind of focus this around provider education. And one thing I'll lift up is that we are ACOG aligned. When we take a look at the emphasis that ACOG has on maternal awareness, we provide a structured education program. We provide those tools and resources. We want to empower birthing individuals through that daily or consistent fetal movement monitoring. Our message is the same. We want people to count every day for every pregnancy at the same time. We want to have an emphasis. I'm so glad we have an early head starter here. We want early intervention to be the goal. We want people to know about this, but we also want people to be seen by their practitioners with a concern earlier, because minutes matter when it comes to lives. We know that ACOG has wants to be impacting through medical practice on a population level impact, and that is also true of us. We take data into consideration for that. Something that we can share with you, and then I'm going to pass it back to Naya. We do have 2 Michigan baby saves, and are they not the cutest? I love when we can have babies join us in our presentation. So this is Hayden and Hunter, and I'll just share with you. These baby saves are available on our website. But what a baby save is when a mom or a birthing person is paying attention to movement and notices that change in fetal movement and seeks help. Sometimes they're delivered right away. Other times they're monitored. But at the end of the day, their baby is there safely because they were paying attention to those movements. And so as you can see from Hunter's story, and she highlights this, and this is something that my team and I and everybody at Healthy Birthday will never, ever, ever, we can't say this enough. right? We need to empower people to pay attention to their intuition. And this is exactly what Chelsea, I had to remind myself of her name, Chelsea said about this. She was anxious about the changes that she was experiencing. She saw her provider. She advocated for herself. She advocated for her baby. That's what we want folks to be able to do. We want them to be able to speak to what is their normal. And when they are not having that normal pattern, they're empowered to seek help for themselves and their baby. So, really important there. And I will pass it back to Naya to tell you how exactly this works.
Yeah, thank you. And so what was Chelsea and I guess any expectant parent or mom feeling for when they're monitoring their baby's movement? We are called Count the Kicks, and the app is called Count the Kicks, but we're not just looking for or paying attention to kicks. We're paying attention to other movement as well. And so when we're talking about ACOG or American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, they recommend beginning counting at that 28-week or 26 weeks mark, especially considered high risk or pregnant with multiples. And you're paying attention to the rolls, the kicks, the jabs, the swishes, any sort of movement there, except for hiccups, because the hiccups are involuntary, similar to how it's involuntary for adults as well. Um, and so those are all movements that can be tracked within the app or our paper kit counting chart, which we'll get into later on in our slides as well. And so on our next slide, we'll break down exactly, or this slide will break down exactly how you can explain this to moms you are working with. So starting in that third trimester, you can begin counting. So you pick a method of counting, and I recommend checking out all three. So you can count kicks in the Count the Kicks app or the web counter, which is available at counttthekicks.org, or you can download the paper kick counting chart, whichever is the most accessible or makes sense for the expectant parent's lifestyle. Um, and then the second step is counting baby's movements every single day, preferably at the same time every day. So here in Des Moines, Iowa, it's 9:18. And so around 9:18, if baby's active at approximately this time every day, this is when I'd set a reminder to count baby's kicks. But if baby's not active around this time, I wouldn't be counting baby's movements at this time. I would pick the time that baby's the most active. So whether that's at night or in the afternoon or in the morning, pick the time that baby is the most active. And then the third step here is time how long it takes baby to get to 10 movements and then rate the strength of the baby's movements. And so whether so you're taking your this is going to make sense when we get to the slide and the app. But basically, you're setting a time for how long it takes to get to the amount of time to get to 10 movements, those swishes, those jabs, those rolls, and then whether it feels fluttery or fierce or light, are you going to mark that down in the app? And then the fourth step here, after a few days, you'll begin to see an average length of time it takes to reach the 10 movements. And so, what I want to emphasize here is that every baby is different. So, some babies may take 4 minutes, and some babies may take 30 minutes to get to 10 movements. And that's completely fine. And that even may vary with the same mom as well. So, if I've had my first pregnancy, my baby took 4 minutes, and my second pregnancy, my baby took 30 minutes, that's completely fine as well. Every pregnancy and every baby is going to be completely different. So I really want you to emphasize that with the moms that you work with as well, that every baby is different. And then once you establish a pattern or a trend, you have that information with in the app or the paper kit counting chart or the web counter, and you're able to, or the mom or expectant parent is able to contact you, their provider, or their provider, whoever that is, if they notice a change in the strength of the movements, whether that's fluttery, fierce, or no movement. And how or whether it's like the amount of time to get to that movement, um, and take action as needed. And so this is a simple step to explain, or simple steps to explain how to count kicks to expectant parents and moms. And you can scan this, and this is available on our website. And of course, these slides are available on the website as well. But if you are a visual person like me and need to see like how exactly is this happening in the app, don't worry, the next slide is going to
That's what
explain.
we're here for.
Yes.
Let's see. Let's see if this will, I think when I'm watching. Oh, look, it worked. Yay. Okay, great. So Naya is okay if I slide in here. All right. So what you're seeing on your screen is exactly what someone will see when they log in for the very first time. It is important, and I'll just highlight it right here. We do ask that people register for the app. And the reason why we're not collecting that information, we're not sharing it or selling it. But if someone is using this across multiple devices, or they want to be able to share it with a provider, it has to be linked to an email. So that is why we encourage you strongly. And I know some people will not want to do this, but please, please, please try and encourage people to register for the app so they can see a full picture of their data. Otherwise, they're only going to see 3 or 4 days. So really important. So as the app is running, I'll just share with you, this is how it works. When somebody feels a movement, they touch that little footprint in the middle. When this wheel fills up, that timer stops. And that is a record of how long it took your baby to get to those 10 movements. Now, of course, this is really, really sped up here. But this next slide, or this next capture here, is you can put in notes. We want you to rate the strength of your baby's movement, because that can change too, and also be a warning sign. But if you put in notes, we recently had a heat wave in the Midwest, not right now, but this past summer, we had extreme temperatures, and we had a doula share with us that she was having her clients write down the temperature and how much water they'd had to drink, because they were seeing a lot of dehydration coming in OB triage, and that was resulting in changes in movement patterns. So if a provider can look at that and make that connection because of this app, that gives us a guide to, oh, we might just need to rehydrate this patient, and then just monitor him to make sure all is well. So that is additional guidance that can happen through the app. And I'm going to let it play one more time as I finish talking. This app is completely free. And it is available in over 20 languages. So if English is not the language that is preferred for reading and recording information by the user, there are multiple languages to choose from. You can use this across Apple and Android products. So as you see here, a lot of us are iOS device people. So we have those Apple examples, but it does work across Android. Again, completely free. The app can have a daily reminder set, so you know when it's time to count. Now, the app will not tell you, hey, been a change in your movement. That's up to you with that, to monitor that patient, to monitor. But you can set a daily reminder for counting kicks. So as we talk a little bit more about the app, and I'm happy to answer questions. I hope I said that in the beginning. If you're having questions, I will stop. I will answer your questions. Throw them in the chat. Carrie will ping me if I'm not seeing them. Let's talk about our AI technology that's also embedded into our app. This is a great feature that we introduced about a year ago. And Ask Anna has actually had some really fantastic updates in December and January. So now there is a little bit more, you can have a conversational tone with Anna. And what this is an opportunity. I like to think when we are pregnant, a lot of times we have questions in the middle of the night, and we don't have somebody that we can ask them that has a reliable source of information. Like, we don't want people going to Dr. Google and Nurse TikTok. We want reliable, evidence-based answers. And so that's exactly what Anna will do. Anna is programmed for answers to come from our research evidence-based papers that our medical advisory board has identified. And so if someone had a question like about hiccups, why don't we count hiccups? They can have that question with Anna. They can ask that question, and then they get answers to those questions, and hopefully they go back to sleep, right? So this is a great tool for people to get information that is, again, evidence-based, and it will not dispense medical advice at all. This is simply an informational tool. Another feature in our app that's really important was, we know how important it is to connect pregnant individuals and families with resources. So we have partnered with Find Help so that this is directly embedded in our app. And if you're not familiar with Find Help, this is a great tool that by zip code, people can be connected to free or reduced cost resources within their area. So they can look up things as you see on the screen: mental health, oral health, prenatal care, diapers, events, all of that can be linked into Find Help. So this is a great tool to connect people and to make that direct connection to those social drivers of health. And we hope to see positive impacts from that. So another baby save that we want to share with you, and again, we just want to lift up this messaging as you see highlighted here. This is baby Mabel. And Megan shared that the only red flag there was a problem with the pregnancy was my daughter's change in movement. So sometimes we get asked like, oh, this is only for people who are sick or high risk. The answer is no, this is for everyone. We want everybody to be tracking those movements and to feel that confirmation that they know what is going on with their baby through movement. So there are some misconceptions, and I'm just going to take the time to address just a few of those today because we want to share all about the resources and tools that we have for this campaign that have been made completely free thanks to the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. So our first misconception, is that if baby isn't moving, I should drink something cold or eat something sugary to get baby moving. This is something that we've heard, especially from community members who are well-meaning and well-intentioned. But the reality is that if baby isn't moving, they need to get with their provider. They need to tell their provider right away so that a course of action can be determined by that provider who has that medical authority to make decisions, right? If we are introducing sugar, if we're introducing some food, if we're like, oh, let's just get up and do some walking of stairs, we're changing that variable that's been around fetal movement. We might be masking a problem. And so we don't want to do that. We want to, again, if we're noticing changes in fetal movement, we want those patients to get with their provider to report those concerns because minutes matter. Another misconception is that babies kick less at the end of their pregnancy, or maybe people will say they run out of room. So the type of movement may change and it may be in a different place than that pregnant person has been accustomed to, but babies should move up to and during labor. And if someone is monitoring those movements, it should take about the same time to feel those 10 movements. Another misconception that we hear is the Doppler devices. And I just want to highlight for you, there's a great video. Jen Hamilton has put out a video where she shares exactly why you shouldn't use a Doppler. But the end of it is that when someone uses a Doppler device, one, they may be picking up their own heart rate and not baby's. And two, you cannot see what the baby's heart rate is doing in addition to that contraction. Movement around contractions is the better indicator of a problem. And as Jen puts it, the last thing that a baby will do is have a heartbeat. And so even if we're seeing a heartbeat on that Doppler, that is not a reassurance that all is well. So just want to dispel those misconceptions. And I'll throw in my personal favorite that is not listed here, but I would be remiss if I didn't tell you. The 10 and 2 is very outdated. So when I went to nursing school in the late 90s, this was the gold standard, 10 movements in 2 hours. And the reality is that most people, according to research, those 10 movements will happen significantly faster than 2 hours. 2 hours may actually do more harm if it's somebody who's had a regular pattern of 10 movements and now we're waiting 2. That may do more harm for that mom and baby dyad. So we really want to dispel that myth for you today and encourage you to lean into those evidence-based methods and guidance. So let's talk about some resources. And again, if you have questions or if you've heard a misconception that you'd like us to respond to, happy to do that. Throw it in the chat. So here are some of our resources for implementation. As we talk today, if you are in a practice, an OB practice, or you have a clinic practice, maybe you're a WIC provider, maybe you work for early learning, at some point, some of these tools may be useful for the practice that you're doing. So we have an implementation guide that comes with every single one of our orders. When you order materials, you will see here are some great tips in order to incorporate this into your practice. So we will provide that to you. We have a standard of work. So as people are using the electronic health records, the EHR systems, AVS after visit summaries, we can share with you what other hospitals and clinics have incorporated. In fact, on the next slide, this is an example from an EHR system that was shared with us, how they embedded this information into their triage visit. So as people were being discharged, they had structured questions to ask the patient about fetal movement monitoring. So we can provide this standardized framework. So that's really the key, is the implementation. So we also offer online trainings. As I said, this is being recorded. We have a library of recordings available to you on YouTube. All of that is available. So if you have a specific area, Naya is a doula. We're going to share a special tool for doulas a little bit later. We've done doula webinars across the United States. We've done webinars for home visitors across the United States. We've done webinars for midwives. We have lots of professional development that is available to you online. And then we also have our materials. So let's talk about some of our specific materials, and I'll pass it back to Naya. And let's acknowledge how cute this little baby is. I love this baby in her bonnet, and I blew by that. So I'm sorry. I'll turn it over to Naya to share with you about our doula guide.
Yes, thank you. Yes, we do have a digital doula guide just for doulas. It is pretty comprehensive. It includes a 20-minute video, as well as some approachable language around conversational tips, how to incorporate Count the Kicks into a birth plan, having culturally relevant conversations with your clients, as well as additional tips and tricks around Count the Cakes and things like that I'm spacing on right now. I apologize. But we do have a QR code here and a link, and Carrie will also drop a link in the chat as well. This is completely free and available, and you're more than welcome to share it within your community as well to doulas that you know, any doula agencies and things like that. So yes, this is available and free. And we appreciate all the doulas in the community that do the work that you do for families around Michigan and beyond. So thank you.
Yeah, Michigan has an extremely strong doula community. We've had a lot of great interactions. So, okay, here is another resource. Sorry, that QR code's over that link there, but Carrie's going to drop a link in the chat. Just as a spoiler alert, we have $25 gift card to give away today for Amazon for orders that are placed in Michigan today. So get them while they're hot. All you have to do to be eligible for that is place an order to get some of these materials. So in Michigan, we offer all materials in English, Spanish, and Arabic. So those printed materials are available in 3 languages. We have a variety of posters. We have our app card reminders. So those are about the size of a business card. We have brochures, and we have 2 different versions of our brochures. And we have additional resources like wristbands, and actually, I don't think they have oral wellness. Carrie can correct me if I'm wrong, but magnets for sure on the Michigan website. Yeah. So there are many different opportunities for patient education for you to see. And in the middle there, that is an example of our picture-based material, that at a glance. It is a little bit different than our traditional. So if you have patients that prefer kind of just like, what are the 3 steps? Like that's the brochure for them. If you have patients that want a little more information about that, the traditional brochure is for them. And I would just recommend having both of those so you have variety that meets the need. So in Michigan, we also have a limited supply of fetal movement monitoring bands. And that's what this little guy is right here. And I actually heard a really cool story about this in Michigan. As we were first rolling these out, I was told by somebody who worked a line, she said that one of the things that was so attractive to her about this wristband was she couldn't have her phone on the line, but she could have this wristband on the line. And when she knew her shift crossed over when it was time to count for her baby, all she had to do was slide this black slider around the band because it's numbered 1 through 10. And that you may be able to see those numbers on that band in the picture in front of you, but very simple to do. And again, this is just another way that we have an opportunity for folks to choose what method works for them. As Nia was telling you in the beginning, a lot of people will like the app. Some people will want to write it down and journal it. And some people will want a tactile version. Like, that is okay. Let's have the option that works best for the patient. That's really important because that means they'll use it. So there's a picture of our downloadable printable kick charts. And also a cool feature of our app is that you can actually scan these sheets in. So once somebody completes them, they can be scanned into our app. And then that data is available digitally. So that is how you would be able to share that with a provider or refer to it to get that longitudinal graph that you saw in the app as we were sharing that with you today. All right. So we also have, so Nia broke down those 5 steps for you earlier, and we have this available as a digital resource. So this is something that can be embedded into email communications or charting, reminders from doulas about things. Yes, thank you for asking that question. These links are all going to come to you in these slides in our email that we send as a follow-up. So all of this information you can refer back to. The digital education page is available in many languages. It's so numerous now, like it's crazy. And it's awesome, right? Because we have the need. All right. And then let me get my slide, keep going here. So for those of you who are RNs, you're probably familiar with the Association of Women's Health and Obstetric and Neonatal Nurses. We've actually spent a considerable amount of time putting together an algorithm. And this is really important in the community impact work that we do, because when we treat every single patient's concerns about fetal movement monitoring, we can eliminate inconsistencies in care. And when we do that, we can eliminate some of those structural pieces that lead to loss of life. We can have an impact on that systemic bias if everybody is treated the exact same way. So this pathway will help folks know what is clear and evidence-based in regards to treating fetal movement monitoring. And there is structured guidance around that decision-making process when somebody presents to OB triage with a movement concern. So we want to support those providers. We want to support institutions in getting accurate information about fetal movement monitoring. So this pathway, or I think they call it an algorithm, this is available to people who were looking for CEs. There is a small cost associated with it. Again, you get those CEs. If you have an LLC, you can use this as a tax write-off under professional development. So this is a fantastic tool and really gets into some of the very clear instruction that is for providers. So another opportunity and resource that we have is following us on social media, and social media works best when we share information. So let me just break down for you these 3 opportunities. So our Healthy Birthday Media is really focused on kind of our professional organization as a whole. So as we worked a couple of years ago to do the National Stillbirth Prevention Act, we had federal legislation signed by President Biden. That was all communicated through our Healthy Birthday channels. When we do work for National Stillbirth Awareness Day in October, that is communicated through our Healthy Birthday channels. The middle one there, the Count the Kicks, if you are somebody who works with family and is looking for content for pregnant families, expectant families, this is a great resource for you. You can share our videos. Our social media manager does a great job of answering questions and addressing some of the misconceptions that are out there, and then lifting up positive things about fetal movement monitoring. And then finally, our newsletter. You can link to that QR code to hear all the things that are happening with the Count the Kicks world and the Healthy Birthday world. So we are just about done. I want to share with you kind of next steps, and then we are available if there are questions that you have, or we can send you back on your day. As you're going out today, think about familiarizing yourself with that Count the Kicks app. So practicing, it's not hard. It's completely free. Spend some time just kind of orienting yourself around it so that if you get asked questions about the app, you're able to answer them. You're able to point to some of those resources that are embedded in the app. Secondly, and again, I'll put that plug in for ordering materials and getting an Amazon gift card. Go order materials and make sure that you have materials on hand. If it's possible to designate someone that like you're the Count the Kicks person, make sure that we have the information, make sure it's accessible. A third step is to take time to educate. Make sure that with those expectant families, you're having the kick counting conversation at every touch point in the third trimester. And for some practices, this is a weekly touch point. For others, you might see them once a month, but every single time we lift up this message, that is an important tool. Our fourth step is to make sure that everyone on the team is available, has the knowledge to speak to Count the Kicks, and they understand the importance of fetal movement monitoring, provide professional development. It doesn't take long. You've spent, where are we at here? 40 minutes with us today, 42 minutes with us today. I promise you, I can teach it in 5 minutes. If you have time and you want me to talk with a group, let us know because we are happy to make it work within your time parameters. And then sharing the information, as we said, we're recording it. You could show it in a collaborative. Anything like that works. Debunking misconceptions and encouraging people to speak up. So we know that there are people out there. We hear the stories where people are like, well, I was concerned and I kind of got talked out of telling my provider about this concern. Encourage people to share when they think something is wrong. The worst thing that we can do is teach people that their intuition we shouldn't be paying attention to that. That is the worst information that somebody can walk away with a conversation from. We need to make sure that people are heard and they are seen and their concerns are addressed. Finally, remembering, again, I've said it a couple times, that hours and minutes matter in preventing stillbirth. So knowing how to expedite the concerns, and I'll just put in a plug here. I was born in Michigan. I'm from the Midwest. I know that there are rural areas of Michigan. There are a lot of them. And as we see across the country, the same is happening in Michigan. Birthing centers are closing. Birthing hospitals are becoming more and more concentrated to those urban areas. So if there is a patient or a person that you're working with that has a drive in that exceeds, that 10 to 15 minutes, what's the plan? Speak up and help them figure out what's the plan. If they find out that they have a change in their movement, what's the plan? And if you're the provider, be proactive about that. Tell your patients what you want them to do to expedite those concerns. And remember, even in our urban areas, a pregnant person may have to utilize a transportation system to get to a hospital. So making sure that they understand what you want them to do to make sure they are safe and their baby is safe. That's really important. And let's think about that as a preventative measure rather than a secondary or tertiary measure. We want to have that information out ahead of time. So I've said a lot to you today. We have shared a ton of information. And as I said, we're going to share this presentation with you. We have references also if you're curious about where we get our information. But at this time, we are happy to answer any questions that you might have, take feedback on the program. I can stop sharing my screen. If you